Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. Well, the official stats are out for the general inflation rate in the US and it looks like the situation just went from bad to worse. Inflation is now up to 9.1% for the year, which is more than what investors expected. This is the highest amount reported since 1981, which is 40 years. So we're going to talk about what this means exactly, what's happening, how this is going to impact your savings, and how we can actually make money from these high inflation times. You're not going to want to miss this video because I'm going to show you step-by-step tactics and strategies that will protect your savings from being stolen through inflation. So quick first, before we start talking about this, we're going to talk about what CPI inflation means. And what CPI means is that it's the Consumer Price Index inflation. And what this means is that the government takes a random group of goods and services they think that people care about and want to buy. So this includes housing, clothes, transportation, education, food, medicine, and other things. And then they track the prices of those goods to figure out how much all the printed money is driving up the cost of these things. You can see here for all items, the government believes that the inflation rate is a general flat 9.1%. But even on the Bureau of Labor Statistics website, they acknowledge that while the average inflation rate for general goods is 9.1%, for energy alone, that inflation rate is actually 41%. And for housing, depending on the area that you're looking at, I'd say the inflation rate is high as 200%. In the case of if you wanted to buy a house in Dallas, Texas, anytime since 2020, you can see here the median house price in Dallas, Texas has 2x'd. And I argue that this is the inflation rate for things you actually need and care about, like houses and making sure that you can fill up the tank in your car. And while these inflation rates in energy and housing are much higher, we're going to be going off the official government statistics for this video. If you want to learn more about what I think the true inflation rate is, and how much of your money has been stolen so far to date through inflation, watch this video now. So if we compare the inflation rate of the United States to other countries, the situation starts to look even worse. So in June, the inflation rate in Europe was 8.6%, meaning that the inflation rate in the United States is worse than the inflation rate on a continent that has a war going on right now and is being food and energy starved as we speak. And speaking of high inflation, the US inflation rate is now tied with the United Kingdom's at 9.1%. Now this 9.1 inflation rate percent in the UK is actually a month old. These stats are from May of 2022, meaning that if I had to guess, because this is 1 month behind and they're tied with us now, if I had to guess this month for June, the UK's inflation rate is going to be even worse than ours. So what's going to happen next is that because the inflation rate is going up and prices are rising so quickly, the Federal Reserve is probably going to have to raise interest rates. And when interest rates rise, stocks typically go down in price. And this is because when interest rates go up, companies have a hard time finding money to use in their operations or borrow from banks. And if you look at the cost of mortgages, you're going to probably see an increase in these mortgage costs, heading from 5% to 6 to 7, 8% if I had to guess. Which all in all is going to make it a rough time for you if you're trying to buy a house. Now for what you can do. A month ago I made a video taking a look at crypto, stocks, real estate, gold and silver, shorting, and investing in farmland. And I took a look exactly about how all of those assets performed during high inflation, and I figured out which of those were the best to invest in during these inflation times. So watch that video if you want a full breakdown on all the inflation hedging assets and which ones are good and which ones are bad. But the takeaway from that video was that the only investments that actually have been performing with inflation so far, and the only investments that have protected my money and given me returns so far since this recession are farmland, energy, real estate, and inverse ETFs. If you think that other assets like crypto and gold are the solution, watch that video I made and I'll explain why those assets are underperforming. So how do you protect your money and make money during these times of high inflation? If you haven't already and you're not concerned about the price of real estate falling because of increasing mortgage borrow rates, get your housing situation in order. And if you can, make sure you own a home and can keep owning that home so you can benefit and be protected from out of control inflation. Another thing I had success with was investing in farmland. And there are only 3 stocks I found in the stock market that you can get exposure to farmland and agricultural with. And those 3 stocks are Farmland Partners, FPI, this is a dividend stock. There's Gladstone Land, that's another dividend stock. In this case, it pays monthly dividends. I've covered this stock a great deal on this channel. And then finally, for food and agriculture, there's the Corn Index, which also has been increasing greatly over the past year. As you saw before in the BLI statistics, energy has increased a great deal, even more than food and farmland, 41% in this case. And a company that I decided to focus on and that I own is called Marathon Petroleum Company, but there are all kinds of energy and oil companies out there. The last investing trick I've been using during high inflation is inverse ETFs. And if you want to learn exactly step by step how inverse ETFs work and which ones I bought, watch this video right here. The short version of that video is that inverse ETFs, what they do is they inverse indexes you've probably heard of before, like the NASDAQ 100 or the S&P 500. And these ETFs go up in price, making you money when the stock market falls and crashes, meaning that you make money from recessions and hard economic times, which some people would argue we're in hard economic times and maybe there's more to come. There's SH, which shorts the S&P 500. and then SQQQ, which shorts the NASDAQ 100. So that's all for this video. Become a channel member for more advanced behind-the-scenes investing content. I answer membership questions that are about stocks and about investing, and do deep dives into the financials of companies I think are interesting and undervalued. Follow the Telegram Journal for live investing updates before the crowd gets them. And then finally, watch this video I made about how food prices are going to go up in price and how you can make money from it.